Dear friend, if you spend a decade working hard just to buy a plot of land and build a house, what would you wish for? A cozy home, a place to start a new life, right? But for the landowner in BAD, that dream turned into a nightmare. On the very first day of construction, the workers were horrified to uncover a decomposed woman's body bound at the wrists and ankles beneath the foundation. She was wearing a red dress with twigs stuffed in her mouth, clear signs of a brutal murder. The police acted immediately, but the deeper the investigation went, the more mysteries emerged. A missing bride, days before her wedding, a family silent for 5 years, and an unexpected culprit living nearby. Follow this story to uncover the horrifying secret behind this seemingly innocent plot of land. Please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss more shocking cases. Early morning, August 17th, 2020. The mist lay thick in the air, yet the heat was stifling. Ethan Tran, 35. A civil engineer had just purchased a 90-square-meter lot on Truong Van Coo Street after years of saving. That morning, a crew of 4 began digging the foundation for his dream home. Ethan watched the excavator sift through layer after layer of soil, excitement in his eyes. He had bought the land from a middle-aged woman named Helen Duong, who was in a hurry to sell before moving to Canada with her son. Priced 15% below market rate, it felt like a stroke of good fortune. Around 10:15 a.m., a construction worker shouted in alarm from the far end of the site. Ethan ran over and peered into the shallow 1-meter-deep pit. He saw decomposed limbs emerging, green nylon rope still wrapped around them. Soon after, dark red fabric like a dress was unearthed. The crew stood frozen. A pungent, foul odor filled the air, a smell of decay. Ethan pulled out his phone and called the police. By 10:45 a.m., Badi City Police, working with Kim Din Precinct, arrived and sealed off the scene. Forensic officers and detectives came next. Lieutenant Colonel David Pham, Deputy Commander of the Criminal Investigation Unit, led the operation. After nearly 2 hours of work in the 1-square-meter pit, they retrieved the remains of a woman bound hand and foot, twigs still lodged in her mouth, her skull crushed. Nearby were a pair of high heels, a decayed women's purse, and a gold necklace. Preliminary forensics concluded the victim had been dead for 4-6 years, most likely from severe head trauma. The position of the body indicated murder, not suicide or accident. The pit was hand-dug, hastily covering the body. One forensic specialist whispered this to a colleague. She wore a red dress, perhaps for a party or wedding. Lieutenant Colonel Pham noted this in his log and ordered a check of missing person records in the area from 2015 to 2016. Unbeknownst to anyone, a mysterious disappearance 5 years earlier in Kim Din Precinct was about to resurface, tied to that red dress. On August 18, 2020, the day after the discovery, Lieutenant Colonel David Pham reviewed missing persons cases from 2015-2016 in the precinct's small conference room. Many names were cross-checked, but only one match stood out. Hannah Nguyen, born 1992, vanished on September 18, 2015, just hours before her wedding. She lived with her mother on Hung Vuong Street, Kim Din, a kind-hearted spa worker. Her fiancé, Peter Pham, born 1987, was the only son of the owners of a prominent jewelry store in the area. The wedding was slated for 5 p.m. on September 18, 2015, but at 2 p.m. that day, Hannah went out to have her dress adjusted and never returned. Her family notified the police, posted flyers, offered rewards, but no trace was ever found. After 3 months, the case was classified as an unidentified missing person. Oddly, Peter's family quickly halted the wedding, closed their store, and moved away months later. Hannah's mother, Grace Nguyen, stayed behind, living quietly and withdrawn. At 10 a.m. on August 18, 2020, Detective Tim Nguyen brought the news of the body's discovery to Mrs. Nguyen, now in her 60s, with white-streaked hair, living alone in a modest bungalow. She froze at the news. Tears welled up as she sobbed. "They say my child is dead. It's been 5 years of endless waiting. I thought she'd been lured to Cambodia or somewhere. Never imagined she'd been buried right here." When shown the gold necklace found with the body, she nodded through her sobs. "That's hers, her 20th birthday necklace I bought her." That afternoon, police re-examined the land where Hannah's body was found. and a chilling coincidence emerged. The plot once belonged to her fiancé's family. Peter's father, Mr. Lawrence Pham, had sold it in 2018 after moving away in 2015. If the victim had been killed and buried in 2015, the land was then still owned by the fiancé's family. This raised countless questions. Did the groom's family know something about the death? Why did they sell the land below market value and leave so abruptly after the wedding was canceled? Was something deliberately hidden for 5 years? That night, a warrant was issued for Peter Pham. According to residential records, Peter now lived in Ho Chi Minh City working as a car salesman. A missing bride, a canceled wedding, a corpse beneath a house foundation, and now the silence was unraveling. 9:00 a.m. August 19th, 2020. A car with license plate 59 pulled up in front of the Ba Di City Police Department. Peter Pham, the man once seen smiling next to Hannah Nguyen in their pre-wedding photos, stepped out. Now 33 years old, he wore a proper vest and had a fair complexion with a scholarly look, but his eyes seemed evasive. On the second floor of the station, Lieutenant Colonel David Pham, head of the investigation unit, placed a file with crime scene photos in front of Peter. "Mr. Pham," he said, "this female body was discovered on land your family owned until 2018. Preliminary evidence suggests it's Hannah Nguyen, your former fiancée, who went missing in 2015. Do you have anything to report?" Peter paused, then shook his head. "I honestly don't know anything. I still don't understand how she disappeared. I called her, endlessly searched everywhere. My family assumed she ran away, so we canceled the wedding." "Did you know she was tied up, had twigs stuffed in her mouth, and buried on your land?" David interrupted. "Investigations show she left her house at 2 p.m. to go to the bridal shop but never arrived. Nearby security footage showed a red scooter carrying her out of the alley. The driver was male wearing a white dress shirt." "Do you know who had a red scooter back then?" "I did, but I'd lent it to a friend named Long," Peter replied. "Long was an old classmate. He used to visit sometimes." Investigator Tim Nguyen immediately jotted down Long Pham and sent a team to verify. At 11:30 a.m., they reached Long Pham Hong's residence in Thang Not Ward, Vung Tau City, where he worked as a motorbike mechanic. Long had no criminal record, but his answers were vague. When asked about the red scooter borrowed on September 18, 2015, Long hesitated. I did borrow it, but I took it to get repaired that day. I had nothing to do with anything else." His reply was unconvincing. That afternoon, August 19th, a forensic report arrived from the Provincial Forensics Center. DNA from the body matched hair samples from Grace Nguyen, confirming 100% that the victim was Hannah Nguyen. Red paint found on the degraded nylon wrapping her body matched the type used on 2014 Airblade scooters. At the same time, the forensic team flagged an anomaly, a circular dent about 3.5 cm in diameter on the skull, likely caused by a blunt object like a hammer handle or metal shovel. The angle of impact suggested the killer struck from behind while the victim was unaware. Investigators quickly pieced together a clearer picture. The victim was lured from her home, likely by someone she knew. She was struck fatally with a heavy object, then bound, gagged, and hastily buried. The killer had access to the property, possibly a key, as the land had temporary fencing at the time. 8:00 p.m. After 6 hours of interrogation, Peter's story began to change. He finally admitted, "Hannah and I had a huge fight that day. I found out she'd been messaging her ex. I was furious, but I didn't kill her. I only asked Long to take her somewhere to scare her straight. I didn't expect—" His voice trailed off. His face turned pale. David clenched his pen. "You didn't expect, or you just didn't want to confess? You thought 5 years underground would bury your sins?" Peter remained silent. Suddenly, a young officer rushed in, handing over new photos. They were stills from an old neighborhood security camera on September 18, 2015. In one blurry frame, a man in a white dress shirt, his face indistinct but body resembling Peter's, was pushing a wheelbarrow with a large sack out of a house. August 20th, 2020. That fuzzy image pulled from an outdated CCTV camera was among the few surviving pieces of evidence after 5 years. Despite the low resolution, the tall, thin frame and bow-legged walk were hard to mistake. Investigator Tim Nguyen sketched the man and compared him with Long Pham, whom Peter had claimed borrowed the scooter on the day of the murder. Shockingly, the figure matched Long's build, 90%, not Peter's. 10:00 a.m. The team returned to Long's house with an emergency search warrant. The small home was cluttered and smeared with grease. After 40 minutes, they uncovered a hidden item, a broken Nokia phone tucked beneath old roof tiles behind the house. Recovered data revealed 6 final text messages, one of which read, "You better keep quiet. Don't do anything stupid. I don't want to get involved." The sender A number registered to Peter Pham. Connecting all the evidence, the investigators detained Long. Under mounting pressure, he finally bowed his head and confessed everything. "That day, I only meant to take Hannah to an empty lot and scare her, tell her not to embarrass Peter. But she fought back, said she'd cancel the wedding and report that Peter had hit her. I lost control. I grabbed the shovel handle and struck her, then buried her. I was scared, terrified. Did Peter know at the time?" David asked directly. Long shuddered. "No, he only asked me to talk to her calmly. I didn't dare say anything afterward. But I knew that if I told the truth, we'd both go down." August 20th afternoon. When Peter was confronted with Long's confession, he broke down. "I never wanted Hannah to die. I loved her, but I was too proud. My family pressured me. When Long told me everything, I understood. But I was too afraid to go to the police. I let the truth get buried. And then, we sold the land, left Ba-Dee, and tried to forget her. Yes, my father didn't want to get involved. He said, 'She's dead, let her rest. Better that way. If you talk, we all go down.' I've lived like a prisoner every day since." Later that day, Long Pham Hoang was officially charged with murder, and Peter Pham was charged with failure to report a crime. At 9:00 p.m. in the investigation office, Lieutenant Colonel David Pham sat silently before the evidence board. A colleague asked, "So it's over, right?" David shook his head. "Not yet. There's still something bothering me. How did Long know exactly when and where Hannah would be that day? Was someone coordinating this? The investigation can't stop yet." August 24th, 2020, early morning. The skies over Ba-Dee were gloomy and heavy with moisture. Inside the Criminal Investigation Unit, David had not left his desk since the night before. Something still didn't sit right. Though the confessed killer Long had admitted guilt, and Peter had acknowledged covering it up, one detail haunted David. How did Long, an ordinary man with no influence or money, dare to take a wealthy girl like Hannah to an empty lot, kill her and bury her on land owned by her fiancé's family without fear of getting caught, who helped him erase every trace for 5 years, 9:00 a.m.? A team was dispatched to Puoc Trung Ward to bring in Mr. Lawrence Pham, Peter's father. 10:15 a.m. interrogation room. Lawrence, 64, short and dark-skinned with thinning white hair, was once a well-known construction foreman in Ba-Dee. He understood soil and land better than anyone. When asked about the land sale, he replied calmly, "I sold that plot in 2018. Didn't need it anymore." Why all the questions? David presented 2 images. One was the 2020 crime scene photo. The other, a 2015 underground drainage blueprint from a wall repair permit tied to the property. Records showed Mr. Pham renovated the wall in October 2015, just 2 weeks after Hannah went missing. Strangely, he hadn't built a new wall. He simply poured fresh cement on the ground exactly where the body was found. Why Lawrence fell silent, then answered, "It was me. I had my suspicions. That day, Peter came home pale as a ghost. I pushed him," he cried. Said Long lost control. "I thought it was just a beating. But I went out back and saw disturbed soil, wheelbarrow tracks. I opened it and saw a sack. I couldn't look inside." David frowned. "You found a body and didn't report it." Lawrence snapped, "I saw my brother go to prison for 15 years for manslaughter. It destroyed our family. I wasn't going to let my son end up the same. So I poured concrete, covered it up. I just wanted to bury it with that land." Later that day, Mr. Pham's confession shocked the entire task force. This was no longer a simple murder and body concealment case. It was a coordinated long-term cover-up. Lawrence Pham was charged with obstruction of justice and destruction of evidence. Peter Pham, failure to report a crime. Indirect accomplice. Long Pham Hoang murder desecration of a corpse and grave. Lieutenant Colonel David Pham closed the case file with a solemn voice. No death is ever truly silent. Conscience will always be the living witness that follows us for life. Then August 22, 2020. The police held an official press conference. The entire investigation process was transparently disclosed to the media. Local residents, already shaken since the body was discovered, were now deeply shocked to learn that the victim and the murderer's families were once engaged in a wedding arrangement. A tragedy buried under pride, reputation, and adult indifference. August 25, 2020. Body City Cemetery. A light drizzle fell in the final days of August. No one spoke. Only the rhythmic sound of shovels from police officers as they gently lowered the coffin of Hannah Nguyen, the unfortunate young woman. After nearly 5 years beneath the cold earth, she was finally laid to rest with no name, no gravestone. Grace Nguyen, her mother, collapsed beside the small coffin, her face, gaunt hands trembling as she placed her daughter's photo next to it. My child. Finally, she is called by her rightful name. In the days that followed, public outrage swept across Ba Di province. The entire region was shaken by the series of tragedies the case revealed. A young woman murdered not out of hatred but due to selfishness, pride, and cowardice by those she trusted most. A once respected father, Mr. Lawrence Pham, who was admired for his integrity, chose instead to cover up a crime just to protect a hollow family reputation. A young man who thought he had protection only to end up bowing to a death sentence at age 30. Mr. Lai arrived late, but not absent. At a seminar held after the case, Lieutenant Colonel David Pham addressed law students. The police can solve cases through skill and training, but in some cases the truth only surfaces when the criminal can no longer bear the weight of their own conscience. If just one voice had spoken up back in 2015, that girl might not have spent half a decade buried underground. If the father had the courage to face the truth, perhaps his son could have received leniency under the law, but they chose silence, and that silence was more poisonous than the crime itself. And the lessons left behind. 1. Love is not an excuse to cover up wrongdoing. 2. Honor cannot be built on the blood and tears of the innocent. 3. The murderer will face justice, but those who stay silent when they know the truth must also bear responsibility. And this story has come to a close, but the pain remains for those left behind. If you believe this story deserves to be shared as a cautionary tale, please subscribe for more true crime investigations. Like this video if you felt moved. Comment below, what would you have done if you were a witness like Mr. Pham? Share this to spread the message. Silence is not golden. Sometimes it is complicity. Thank you for watching. Until next time.